Yo, what's going on, guys? Jay here. And today, I want to talk about this upcoming JID album, God Does Like Ugly. Which, first of all, what we're really talking about today is the rollout. Now, if you looked at the title for this video, it will say, JID's rollout is great, but not good. And I just want to quickly explain what I mean by that. Because, essentially, you could replace good with effective. Or ineffective in this case. JID's rollout is great, but ineffective. And let me just get into what I mean by that. First of all, I want to give a quick shout out to Read My Soul because he did a video kind of similar to this. I'm also going to be talking about my opinions on like all the music so far. Kind of just go through everything that's been building up to God Does Like Ugly. But he had a similar title. His was, I believe, good but not great, and compared it to the Clipses album rollout. But I'm going to say his is great and not good. And I also do think the Clipses is great, but with the knowledge that I'm going to be treating the word good here as ineffective. Let me explain by what I mean. JID has dropped with this awesome EP that he came out with, the Preluxe, as well as some of the other tracks, freestyles, all this stuff he's been doing. It is great in the sense it is feeding the fans. I'm a big time JID fan. And this has me so excited. So in that sense, right, it's an effective rollout. He is getting the fan base ready. I'm sure a lot of other JID fans online are very excited. But why I say it's ineffective is because it's not expanding the brand. JID is not reaching out to any new... I mean, obviously he could be, but this rollout is really directed to already established fans. He's not really doing any media appearances. He hasn't had a big smashing single. He's not, like, in public, you know what I mean? He's not out in public. I looked up JID interview on YouTube, and most of the results were coming up from a year or two ago, his most recent being 7 months ago, in association with the Atlanta Hawks, and I think it was like a 15-minute interview, or at least the clip that I saw online was, right? So JID is not really out like that right now in terms of, like, his public space, which is why I'm saying that this is ineffective. Now, if you want to get in the comments and say, well, the point of a rollout isn't just to expand the brand, but it is to retain the fan base that you have. That is very much true, right? I'm not going to sit here and argue that JID's rollout is bad. Like I said, it's great. It's just not going to propel him any further than he is right now. The album, of course, could, but the rollout itself is not doing that. I want to talk about a couple of recent album rollouts and kind of give you where they fall in this. Of course, we got clips like God Sort 'Em Out coming out, damn, at the end of this week. Yo, I'm so excited for that, too. But theirs is a great because they're giving out good music to the fans and giving out good content to the fans. But it's also effective because they're out in the public eye having a new interview drop pretty much every week, if not quicker than that. They are making headlines. They are being talked about a lot, Pusha T and Malice, which they need that. They're coming off like a 15-plus year hiatus of not dropping an album, over 5,000 days. Like, they need to tap into the newer generation because a lot of people my age, younger, maybe even older, are not going to be tuned in with their stuff that they were dropping in 2002, 2006, you know? But they're able to reach this new audience because they're out in the public. Tyler, the Creator, his Call Me If You Get Lost, as well as Chromacopia rollouts. I think we can all agree as Tyler fans, both were, like, amazing. Both of those album rollouts are amazing. I'm not here to debate that. But again, are they effective at growing the brand? I'm going to say no, personally, just because, again, he wasn't dropping any smash hit singles. I don't think he dropped all he dropped was Lumberjack and then Noid in the intro track in terms of Chromacopia, and then Call Me If You Get Lost, of course, was the Lumberjack single. None of those were smash hits. He had a couple of interview appearances, I think, nothing crazy, but what he really does on his rollouts is he gets the fans hyped up. He gets his fans hyped up. And that when you're as big as Tyler, doesn't matter if you're really reaching out to these new fan bases or not, especially in the case of Tyler, where he's always been kind of an in his own lane guy who has cultivated an amazing fan base. So his situation is different. JID's situation is also different because he has, again, these die-hard fans who are not just going to listen to the album when it comes out. They're going to buy the merch. They're going to buy the vinyls. They're going to go to the concert, right? JID, when you're an artist like JID who's a very talented and like is on the cusp of being a truly mainstream act, is because you got a little bit of that mainstream rub with a song like Surround Sound that was pretty popular, a song like Stick that was pretty popular. But he has a large fan base that is not just like a casual fan base. His fan base is pretty dedicated. So it works for him cultivating to that, which is, again, why it's great, but not good. Right? I hope you guys are getting a good understanding for what I'm saying. Another one I want to talk about is Kanye West's Donda rollout. Now, again, this was great for hyping up the fans, giving these unique experiences, all this different music to his target audience, his major fans. But he's also, and again, Kanye West, huge artist, so maybe he's not the best direct comparison here. But also all these shows he's doing beforehand, all the things, all the headlines, again, it's expanding his brand. Even though you're like, oh, it's how could his brand get any bigger? I think he still did a good job at pulling in new people into his audience with this album, right? Another one, I guess we'll do the last one. I wanted to do J. Cole, excuse me, the off-season rollout, because I feel like that one's kind of the most similar to this JID rollout, where it's not a lot of media appearances, but it was that hell of a feature run that he went on leading up to the release of the off-season. He also had the Lewis Street EP, which had 2 tracks, The Climb Back, as well as Lion King on Ice. And both of those tracks, I mean, one of them did eventually make the off-season. And again, it fed the fans. You had these great features he was going on, where, again, everyone online is talking about J. Cole. Oh, my God, his feature run is crazy. His 2019, 2020, 2021 feature run, it's nuts. And that was the whole conversation around it then. The rollout did itself because he was putting out that good music, and that's what JID's doing right now. Although you could argue with that Middle Child, which did come out 2 or 3 years before the off-season, was a part of that rollout, because that was an initial expanding the brand. That wasn't like top 5 on the Billboard Hot 100. It wasn't even in the album. But it took the conversation from, a few years before that, oh, KOD's a flop, KOD's this, blah, 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 to, hey, J. Cole's got a new hot song, and it brought those casuals back in for when he would eventually drop the off-season. Last one I want to touch on quick, just because it's also happening right now, the Drake Iceman rollout. This, again, I'm going to hit with the great but ineffective. And I'm not going to sit here and say that I think What Did I Miss is a good track, because personally I don't. I talked about this. You can find that on my Instagram Reels, TikTok. It's also on this YouTube page. A little video of me talking about What Did I Miss and why I personally didn't like it. But for his fans, that worked perfectly. When you consider what Drake's demographic is right now, those people are loving the track. They were tuned into the live stream he did, and they think it's awesome. So again, it's not expanding his brand. It might even be isolating people to a degree, but it is catering to his prime demographic, and because of that album is going to succeed. But now let's talk about the Forever Story. Not actually, because this came out in 2022. When it came out, it was my album of the year for 2022. It's my number 2 for that year now. Shout out Mel Myers here if you should shout out Denzel Curry, because that just barely eclipsed it in the past couple years for me. But when we left off with JID, he had dropped the extended version with 2007, which he dropped on YouTube, to this album. Unanimously praised as album of the year. You had Surround Sound, and you had the other track with Kenny Mason. Why am I Dance Now? Man, I could have avoided looking like a dumbass. I mean, you look at the streams on here. Surround Sound has 700 million streams. I didn't know that. You also got, like I said, Dance Now, over 100 million. Though both of those tracks got airplay. The streams overall on this, for being a pretty low-key album in terms of not going number 1 on Billboard, are great. You had 2 hits on here. JID has expanded his audience with this album, as well as further entrenching people like me who are fans of JID going into this as being longtime fans. Now let's look at his features. I didn't listen to this song. I don't know Trueno. But expanding the audience, because he got 16 million streams on that song. That's pretty good for with an artist I never heard of. You had this Dreamville track, which was later on the D-Day mixtape, which also had Stick. My Boy, 25 million. I felt like that had some play for a little bit. He was on a track with John Batiste, New Jeans, and Camilo. I know nothing about this. And the Zero JID remix, I know nothing about. This looks like maybe some, international group. Same with I was thinking the same thing about the Lo Tango song, where JID is expanding his brand overseas, building it through doing these what might be considered a pop appearance, and where this group New Jeans is primarily performing, where they're introducing Jid's being introducing himself to their primary demographic, which was different than his. Then you had his sick feature on Smoke Break Dance by Mick Jenkins. If you haven't heard this track, go listen. That whole Mick Jenkins album was great. Then you had this little EP that snuck in. I forgot about this. The Black Boys present Half Doing Dope / Van Gogh. Now, I will say, just a brief tangent, JID and Lil Yachty having a little group name for themselves and then it being Black Boys, unless there's some meaning that I haven't been explained to about this, is very unoriginal. Yes, I do understand that they are two African-American men from Atlanta. So, maybe there's some other meaning that they explain in a song, in an interview or whatever, aside from that. And nothing wrong with that. It's just a very, seems throw together. And Van Gogh has been out for a long time. I think this has been out since, 2018 on YouTube. It just came to streaming. Then you had Half Doing Dope with Babytron, along with the two of them, of all people. And this was a fun EP. I still go back to both these tracks every now and again. And again, Rollout is looking good so far because JID is keeping up his momentum, even though he's not doing a lot of features or singles at this point. He's kind of in the back, popping out every now and again, like on Sundown with 21 Lil Harold. This was also a great track. I would recommend listening if you've never heard it. JID Spaz is on there. You had his French Montana verse. I never listened to this as well just because it's French Montana. He had a track with Bia, which only 4 million streams. I mean, given it was Bia, it could have done better. Clearly, not the biggest thing. Same with Crazier, his feature on Crazier with Absol, which this was a great feature, great song. That whole Absol album, Soul Burger, is one of the best albums of last year. If you haven't heard it, go listen. So far, the feature run at this point, it's good, right? All the features that I've heard on here are great. I mean, it's JID. That Crazier feature was awesome. But it's low-key. And you know how JID is. He's not really out, in the spotlight, in, the drama. Now, he's doing brand deals, like I said, with the Atlanta Hawks. And you can catch him every now and again having a song in a commercial. I forget what recent commercial he had a song in, but I know there was one. It's just not coming to my head right now. I don't even care about the Imagine Dragons stuff, even though that blew him up. Then you had the first song for the Rollout for God Does Like Ugly, Work. 7 million plays is not bad for where JID's at. It's not obviously not a smash hit, but I think it's good enough. I don't think it's I think it's about expected. And this track goes hard. It's a banger. I like it. Now this is where really now this song just came out within the last couple of weeks where he features on Offset's track Bodies. Now this track goes hard. It has an iconic sample in terms of the let the bodies hit the floor. JID spazzes on it. Offset does his thing, and this song is awesome. I think it will continue to grow in popularity. I could see this becoming a sleeper hit. Maybe not hitting the Billboard Hot 100, but finishing the year with over 100 million streams. That wouldn't surprise me. And so JID again is picking up steam, and then I should mention at this point, is doing freestyles on YouTube. You had Freestyle 31, and then you had Freestyle 32, which came out 2 weeks ago at this point. Now, this was kind of the announcement of the GDLU Preluxe. It was Over the Hood by Air by Playboy Cardi beat, which I like because that's an attempt to bring in people who might not be in your traditional fan base, because that beat is hard as fuck, and there might be people who love Cardi who just checked it out because they love Cardi, right? And, I mean, that whole thing is awesome. You had his football highlights tape packed into that. I mean, it was great. That was just I still listen to that freestyle till today. I mean, it came out recently, so it's not surprising. He had the Bo freestyle on Instagram as well, come out a few days later. I wish that was dropped on streaming. I'll be honest. I think that song and that freestyle are better than any song on this EP. Not to discredit this EP, right? Not at all to discredit that. But yeah, I was really, really loving those two songs. But now you're getting the me's and the other JID fans of the world riled up. You coming with the hard freestyle, the Instagram exclusives, and now the EP is here, which is pretty, from what I see, commercially, it's whatever, right? I think, again, looking at the numbers, it's pretty solid for a EP that was released a week before it coming out in the form of a freestyle for an artist who's not the most popular artist. He's getting a lot of chatter online from just the hip-hop fans in general, as well as hip-hop publications and blogs and content creators. What we don't got is any magazine covers. What we don't got is any headlines. What we don't got is any interviews, any type of interactive content that JID's really participating in. And that's what this needs. to push this to the next level. He needs to go sneaker shopping or sit down with Jeremy Heck to do the I don't know if you guys have seen the Jeremy Heck thing with the where he guesses their all-time favorite song. It's a really fun. Absols I liked. I've watched a couple of those. They're fun. I would love to see JID on that. And that's why I'm saying it's ineffective. It's very effective in terms of hyping up the fans, feeding them, giving them these great music, right? But he is not going to, I don't think he's bound to sell maybe more than 10K more than he did initially with the Forever Story, which I feel like that's very generous, honestly. I think that probably sold, I'm going to guess 26K. I don't know for sure, though. You know, I don't think 30K. I don't know why it's got that picture on there, but it debuted at 12 on the Billboard 200. Now, all things accounted for, especially given how praised that album is. Success. Huge success. JID's most successful album so far. Undoubtedly, I would say it's a wild success because that is a song that will be streamed and the vinyls will be bought for literally the next decade. I mean, the people who know that album will love it, and that album will only continue to become more revered. Now, with this next album, I don't think he's cracking 50K. I think even saying he's cracking 40K with it, like, I'd say that's wishful thinking, just personally, just given the fact that he hasn't had that, like, solo or even just hip-hop-oriented smash hit. He had that song with the Imagine Dragons, but that's different than if he had a song with 1 billion streams that was featured that he was working with, like, J. Cole or even someone like Lil Baby, just as someone in the hip-hop sphere. But will it sell less than that 30K? No. I think it's bound to go up at least a little bit given how successful critically the Forever Story was, but I don't think we're going to see an explosion of him becoming, like, touted as this new hip-hop superstar. And I want that. I need that. I think we all agree with that, right? We all want to see that for JID. We all do. Everyone who's a fan of this man wants to see him get to that point. But this rollout is not going to help him get to that point, and that's why I'm personally a little frustrated with it, because I know that it can. I know that JID could position himself to be in, mentioned as the new big three. Now, I don't believe there's ever going to be a new big three. I think that the big three only applies to Cole, Drake, and Kendrick. It's kind of a weird phenomenon, not something that happens every generation. But could he be a top echelon guy who could sell over 100K, who could pop out with a hit every time he drops an album while still making lyrically focused stuff? Yeah, I think he's one of the few people in the game who could do that, and it's because his skill is so undeniable. But him not putting effort into being in, like, the mainstream consciousness is not going to help that, and that's fine. Maybe JID doesn't want to be that guy. I'm not here to critique his goals and aspirations. I'm just saying, as an observer and as a fan, that he's going to definitely push forward with this upcoming album, but I don't think he's going to explode in the way we initially expected after the success of the album as a whole, of Surround Sound, the Imagine Dragons track. I think a lot of people were kind of thinking, like, oh, he's up next. He's about to step up to the plate and knock it out of the park, and I'm sure he will. And when we're talking about the quality, when we're talking about the staying power of this album, but when we're talking about him, again, being one of these top, most popular guys selling even to, like, 80 or 90K, I think we still need some time on that. But anyways, to talk about this GDLU Preluxe real quick, it's cool that they got Bo listed on here on the Genius. First, I'm going to keep this brief because this video is already a little longer than I wanted. But first time I listened to this EP, I was kind of disappointed, just in, like, all right, this is amazing raps, amazing rhymes, but I'm not really going to come back to it. And after sitting with it for a little bit, I do feel that way about Animals. Animals with Eminem is always going to be like a tech demo to me. And also, isn't it interesting how Eminem's pretty much the best 2 verses he's had over the last, like, 5-10 years have been when he's rapping with JID. I think it's an iron sharpens iron type of thing. But, I mean, yeah, this is just a tech demo. You're getting great lyrics, great bars from both JID and M. Not something I'm ever really going to bump unless I'm, like, listening to this EP or I want to be enamored. Because the beat is, like, whatever. And this is really just, again, like, it's rap sparring. It is something that you observe to be impressed with the skill. It's not something you, like, listen to. Why do they got these ads, bro? What the hell? I'm gonna have to crop that out of the phone. Anyways, yeah, it's not something you're just gonna, like, throw on, like, when you're hanging out with your friends. more than likely, right? Then to go from the top, Behold, I really like this intro. It's high energy. It would go hard in the gym. None of the beats on this album, on this EP, move me, which does worry me a little bit because, for example, like with DiCaprio 2, that's what stops me from thinking that album is amazing. Like, I think it's a great album. I don't love probably like half the production choices on there. It's more like I'm just not moved by them. JID is not someone who I think has the best beat selection ever. And it's super cool that he could rap over anything, but that doesn't mean he should rap over everything. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you need something that's a little more, not even traditional, but just not so like, I don't know. Sometimes JID just hits these weird vibes in the instrumentals he chooses. Now, Knew Better with Yachty does not have that issue. This is a banger. The first time I listened to it, I wasn't moved, but the most recent couple of times I was like, okay, I see this. I'm going to listen to this in the gym, in the car. This is a trunk-rattling banger. Certified on that, right? This shit goes hard. JID's bars are great. One thing you really take notice of here, and that I've been taking notice of for a while, shout out to Professor Sky's record review. He did mention this, and it kind of has made me think about it. No one has better sports references than JID, man. No one. He was saying that he's a sixer like Tyrese Maxey because he's an athlete. Like, I don't know. He just has not just like deep cuts on pulling out like not just the biggest athletes in fucking basketball or football or whatever, but he also uses them well and isn't just like, oh, I was balling like KD. You know, he's got a little bit more going on than that with his reference. And I think they're great. His references are out of control when it comes to the sports and just in general. But yeah, this track goes hard. Yachty's verse is actually really good. Another artist that JID is bringing the best out of at all times. Yeah, I like this. And then Lisa with 6 Lax. And, you know, I always say 6 Lax just because I know it's black, but I don't really like JID in black. Like, I don't know. I think there are probably a lot of people who know 6 Lax and don't know him as black. And then, yeah, just talking about the sports references, here's 1 2 1 2 before 3, like 2 3 when it hit third, that 92, that 93 crowned a new king. Just incredible bars about how Jordan went from being the top dog in the 93 season. He's, of course, the 2 3 that's being referred to. And there is just amazing bars all over this song. I do like Lisa. This is like, this is going to sound dumb, but this hits me as like a fall track. Like, I'll be listening to this a lot in, like, 6 months, I think. And it's just because the more low-key instrumental, which I do like. Obviously, the point of this EP is really just to serve how good of a rapper JID is. It's not about having a banger. It's not about having these conceptual songs. It's not about having, even the features here, they're complimentary. It's not about having these awesome collabs. Even though they are awesome, it is about JID showing you just how skillful he is. And as a fan, I love that. As a fan, I love that. We are officially maybe a day less than a month away from God Does Like Ugly. And that album, like, whether you like it or not, it's going to be an awesome album. I think it's going to be an interesting sonic direction for JID because I do hope a little bit, but I also expect that the album isn't going to just sound like this EP. I also hope it has a better cover. But you know what I mean? I'm expecting something a little more meaty, but a little more, I don't know, like I said, there's just some like eerie, like a little bit off about some of the productions on this EP. And I still love it. I still do love it, but I want to see something a little more concise, a little more cohesive when we get to God Does Like Ugly. And I'm sure we will. JID is a master. He is an expert of his craft. But yeah, thank you guys for sitting through this. I appreciate y'all hanging out with me today. I'll talk to you next week. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share. Tell me what you're thinking about this JID rollout so far. What's your favorite moment from it? And do you think he should be out there doing more press? That's my big question is, if he's going out, having a smash hit, doing these interviews, would that have pushed him into the stratosphere in terms of his star potential? Let me know in the comments, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.